This is quite loud. Is there a way to
Loud.
turn that?
Oh, yes.
It's very loud.
Testing.
They're all loud. Very loud.
How about that? Can you hear me now? Is that
Yes.
better? I'm
good.
not like right screaming in your ear now. That's good. We'll call the Architectural Review Board to order tonight, and thanks to all the Carpinteria residents for coming out tonight. I want to do the roll call.
Will
Mr.
do.
Banks?
I see that board member Wolf is not in attendance, so we'll see if she can make it. Board member O'Connor,
Present.
board member Little,
Present.
board member Johnson, Chair Blakemore.
And next, we call for any public comment that is on matters not otherwise on the agenda tonight. Is there any member of the public that's got public comment not on anything on the agenda? Anything on Zoom?
No comment on Zoom, Chair.
Okay, fantastic. Review project,
Chair Blakemore, if I
Yes.
may. I have a matters by staff item that hoping that you would allow to go first so we can let these applicants do their presentation, and then we'll move on to our one item on our agenda tonight.
absolutely. Is it appropriate to ask for ex parte communications on that and/or the other item tonight?
I think
then?
it would, and so let me tell you what the matters by staff item, and then we'll let you know. So a minor project related to the Palms renovation project, and specifically the Market Deli little annex on the north side, and some small changes to the rear based on some health department requirements. And so that is the item we have for matters by staff tonight.
Okay, is there any ex parte communication on this item or the other item agendized tonight?
No.
None for me either, thank you.
Great. So I will go ahead and get started if that's good for you. Come on up. So got some plans here, half-size copies for you. So as I had mentioned, so this relates to what we are calling the annex, so a small portion of the former Oaxaca Fresh building on the north side of the Palms building proper. And you may recall there was some work to the rear of the annex there that like some little storage areas, trash enclosures, that sort of thing. In working with the applicants, they are actually excited about getting the annex open early. So rather than waiting for, the entire renovation on the Palms building proper to be completed, they'd like to get in and start the tenant improvement modifications to the annex building, and at least get that open while the main Palms building is under construction. So we looked at, how to do that. And unfortunately, the health department, we had entertained an opportunity because there's no bathroom in there. The main bathroom the bathroom for the annex was going to be served by the bathroom in the Palms building itself. And unfortunately, the health department would not allow a temporary, like a Marburg or, one of those, even the nicer ones, the little trailer things, to serve as a public bathroom because of health codes and hand washings or food preparation or something. So what the applicants come up with is another approach, which would result in additions. Oh, and the other aspect of the primary reason for the changes are that the storage areas that we had previously reviewed and Planning Commission and your board approved wouldn't work for health department. They need, and the applicants can explain, but they need like actual physical food storage or freezers or something within the restaurant or kitchen area itself. So essentially what's being asked for this matters by staff item is a minor revision to the approved development plan to demolish the existing sheds that are there and to add on to the rear of the building. The total after the demolition of the existing shed building would be 157 square feet. Also, the applicant would construct a a legitimate restroom that would meet the health department requirements as a restroom, so physical sticks and plaster and a full restroom, that would essentially be demolished when the main Palms renovation is complete. So rather than a Marburg temporary or even one of those trailer things, they would actually build a bathroom at the rear of it, function for the annex use, and then be demolished when the main restaurant renovation is complete. In terms of, so here's our area of work. You'll see there on the sheet, pretty simple set of plans. And the additional area in plan view, as I said, what we had already previously approved was an employee patio in the rear there and trash enclosures, fenced area. So essentially what we have now is the addition would fill what was, the previous employee patio area. And then this rectangle here is the temporary restroom that would actually be demolished. So that wouldn't be a permanent fixture again. The trash enclosure would still function there. And so if we looked at it in elevation, here's what's there now on the right-hand side, and the little kind of tumble-down building there, storage shed, which would temporarily look like this because this is the temporary restroom, and then permanently look like this. So the door into the facility, this shows that addition popping out, and then the fenced trash enclosure. So in terms of its elevation, when you looked at it from the alley, it's basically the same as it was. That's it. I'll leave it to the applicants to fill in anything I may have missed. Oh, and we did have the historians, the project historians, of course, reviewed it, and we're not concerned. These were not original, the storage building that's going away were not original portions of the building or part of the Palms, the main Palms building itself. So that's it for me. Anything that you'd like to add? Well, I used your presentation, so it was really easy.
Yeah, we're available for questions.
Okay.
So my one question, just assuming that we need that trash area back, that's why it can't be a permanent installation, and that we're just limited on the square footage? Okay. That was my only question. Other questions from the board?
Unfortunate you have to do that, but it's fine.
Do you need a vote?
No, it's matters by staff. Just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with it and not something that would need to come back for formal review. We're not planning on taking this back to Planning Commission. The director can handle it as under our current ordinance for a minor director level change. So if, we just wanted to make sure that the director would like your feedback to make sure that that's appropriate.
Okay, does anybody have any comments they want to add to the record for your?
No.
All good?
We should go ahead and open it up for public comments since it's
sorry.
non-agendized, but it is a project.
Since I missed the last meeting, this is my first go-round as official chair, so I apologize. Thanks for bearing with me. Any public comment on this item? Anyone on Zoom?
Thank you, Chair Blakemore. No one over Zoom.
Okay, now I think,
We got
what you need?
Thank you, board. We got what we needed. I think the applicant has what they needed, and just keep pushing through. And we'll circle back on the administrative approval of that. We can get that moving next week. Thank you.
Building up there.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda, the first item, Franklin Creek Trail Improvement Project.
And Chair, there's, if we have any public speaker, folks that would like to speak after Cindy's presentation, we do have the speaker slips on both corners of the building back there, and we'll get some pins if you need some more. And you can go ahead and hand those to me. Thank you.
Okay, is that better? Yes.
Yeah, we'll get you a pen too. It doesn't look like there's one up there.
Yeah, I will, Teresa was just playing with all the knobs, trying to get the volume up this morning, so I cannot say what happened.
All right.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the ARB. Tonight we are here to review the Franklin Creek Trail improvements for preliminary review. So this project is a new multi-use trail that would be located along Franklin Creek between Carpinteria Avenue and 7th Street. The trail would be 13 feet to 12 to 13 feet in width and approximately 900 feet in length. New landscaping, seating benches, night lighting, and fences and gates are proposed. The grading would entail 50 cubic yards of cut and 300 cubic yards of fill to construct the trail to be ADA compliant. And 6 non-native trees are proposed to be removed. So this is basically going to be a connector trail to replace an existing informal trail. And the city received a grant as part of the Safe to Schools program, which Josefina can elaborate on later. But it's to improve this pathway with a proper trail instead of this informal dirt trail to connect Carpinteria Avenue to 7th Street, which is also a major corridor to and from Aliso School. And this is the view from Carpinteria Avenue looking towards the entrance to the trail. Here's where it breaks from the sidewalk, and you walk along here and then further down. So you can say it's kind of a rickety fence with just like dirt right there. And then this is from the 7th Street side. There's it's just if you were on your way to Aliso School, the trail would be right here off the east side of the bridge. And there's the little gate, and then here's looking back towards 7th Street from the trail. And this trail is also, it's dual purpose. It's also the flood control access because this is on flood control property, county flood control property. So the trail is going to double as access for their equipment to get in and maintain the creek channel, as well as for bikes and pedestrians. And here's just an overall site plan. So here's the freeway up here. Here's Carpinteria Avenue. Here's the Best Western. Here's Aliso School. 7th Street comes here. And then right here is the Franklin Creek Trail corridor where this trail is proposed. So you can see how the condos here and here, and then there's a lot of houses that way, but a lot of little houses here in the downtown core. So this is a pretty heavily traveled trail for kids to get to Aliso School from the eastern side of downtown. I know. We got poltergeist. We got it all. And then this is just a long view plan of the creek overlaid on a aerial, just showing the connection with the new trees and the plantings. And here's the south side of the plan. This is a little more detailed. So here's the bridge. The trail would start here. It's going to kind of meander to be, somewhat natural. There's a little bench area proposed here. No connection at the end of 8th Street. Just a couple people were wondering about that. There's not a connection at 8th Street. It's just a fence along there. Another little bench area here. And then moving to the north towards Carpinteria Avenue. The trail comes along. This is where that existing bridge that comes from 9th Street ties in right here. And then there actually is access from the other end of 9th Street here to the trail and a little sitting area. In this area, there are 3 existing sycamore trees, which during our preliminary conversations with the Coastal Commission, they were very strong with their recommendation to keep those trees. So the applicant team has done a really good job they had to do a lot of modifications to the trail and the layout. and the lighting to preserve these 3 sycamore trees here. So you may recall these 3 sycamore trees from the Clintner project next door. So the trees have been preserved, and when we get to the details, I'll show you the special type of footing and permeable ground cover that they're using for the trail in that area to preserve the trees and protect the roots as much as possible. And then come down here, and then it ties into Carpinteria Avenue. Can you hear me now? Okay. So that's the north end, and then the terminus at Carpinteria Avenue. And here's just the typical section. So you can see most of the portions of the trail would have these deep footings here on each side because they have to meet Caltrans specifications. And then there's the gravel and then the asphalt on top, or the AC concrete. And then there would be little ADA guardrails on each side where there's a drop off because of the drop right here. And then just existing grade. And then here's the concrete walls of the creek channel, which are not going to be changed during the project, as part of the project, although new fences would be placed on top of the creek channel to replace the existing dilapidated ones that are there now. On the trail here, you can see the overall width is 12 feet. The main pathway is 8 feet wide, and then 2 feet of shoulder on each side. That's how it's planned. Now here's the section of the sycamore trees, and you can see that they've used these smaller, more curb-like footings. They're not a full footing on each side. And then where there's the 8-foot trail width here to here, but the shoulder on the side where the sycamore trees are is just, it's not covered with the AC concrete. It's just left to be permeable, compacted DG gravel. So that's what they're doing to help preserve the trees there, under the supervision of an arborist, and also, any roots would have to be trimmed off using the special methods with the hand cutting and all that in the critical root zone. And then here's a rendering of the proposed trail looking south. So this will be looking down towards Aliso School direction. And a rendering, at the 9th Street where the 9th Street pedestrian entrance enters the trail. Let me get a drink of water real quick. Okay. Okay, and for the benches, they're proposing these 2 different styles. And then these are the replacement fencing along the creek. There are 5 access gates to the channel for flood control maintenance, and then just the regular fencing along, and it would have the black enamel, or not enamel, the black vinyl coated chain link, and then with the fabric covering. And then here's the concrete split rail fence detail. This would be near the 9th Street pedestrian entrance. Or I shouldn't say pedestrian, I should say entrance to the trail, because bikes could come in there too. And then here's a detail of that handrail on top of the retaining walls for the ADA compliance. It's just a simple, typical handrail. It would be painted brown. And then the trash and recycling receptacles that would be located along the path have the covers, which are for stormwater quality. Believe it or not, trash cans have to have covers now. And then the night lighting, this was also another concern that the Coastal Commission had when they reviewed the project. They were concerned about any light spilling over into the creek channel because it's also a wildlife corridor. Even though it's channelized, animals still use it. So a lot of effort was also put into the redesign and location of the light fixtures and style to get them as far back on the east side of the trail corridor, and then hooded and shielded and at the brightness that and shielded so that they would not cast over into the creek. These are, let me go back here, hold on. And the height right here is 10 feet, so that the poles are 10 feet, and then the light comes and domes down. And so the actual light would be coming out at like 9.5 feet. So they're pretty low poles, but where they're located, they do work for the flood control equipment to be able to get in and out and, you know, not bump or run over the light posts. And then here's the night lighting plan and the photometric plan. So these red dots here are the locations of the light poles, and you can see they're all pretty much, well, they are all on the eastern side of the trail corridor, except with the exception of this one right up here at Carpinteria Avenue. And then the photometric plan, which you can see a lot better in your actual plan sets. But when you look at it, you can see here, which is where the creek corridor is, that the light is all zero here by the time it gets to the creek corridor. So the lights will achieve the goal not to shine into the creek. And then back to the 6 non-native trees to be removed. Here is the 7th Street side of the trail. So this is a eucalyptus here and another eucalyptus here. Both of these are proposed to be removed. This is a eucalyptus, or these 3 right here are 3 eucalyptuses that are going to remain. Continuing towards Carpinteria Avenue, there's a little cut line here. 2 more eucalyptus to remain, another eucalyptus to be removed. There is a myoporum and a dead tree right here, which those 2 have actually, the myoporum has been removed and the dead tree has been cut down, but the stump has not yet been removed. So those are really already gone if you went to walk the site. And then, and these are the 3 sycamores that have been, they redesigned the project to retain. And then here's another eucalyptus tree that is proposed to be removed as part of the project. And then the new landscaping plan for the trail. These are 2, this is the 7th Street end again. Coming in from 7th Street, there's 2 toyons, and then they're proposing several trees. It's this larger icon here along the corridor of the trail. And then this is mostly mulch along the sides. Around the benches, there are little areas with some ground cover and shrub plantings. And again, here we're getting back to the other end of the trail. Here's the 9th Street Bridge coming in. Another sitting area. Here's another new tree. And then here's where the sycamores are. And then Carpinteria Avenue. Now, the landscaping plant palette, Amy, we are going to need your input on. So we have our creek preservation program. Requires any plants, permanent landscaping plants along creek corridors to be natives. And the applicant has provided a landscaping plant list. The trees include our street trees. The island oak, I know, is a native that would count. And I know the toyon are natives, but definitely we're going to need your input for, well, on all the planting and your approvals that they're native. I think these ground covers are both natives, but the shrubs and the ornamentals, we're definitely going to need some input on of these proposed species in the palette, like what are native and what would be appropriate to use along the creek corridor. Or if there's suggestions for another species that you think would be better, obviously we'd like your input on that as well. So for the key objectives and policies to consider tonight is our objective CD8, to encourage and facilitate pedestrian and bicycle pathways. Objective CD13, to ensure that lighting of new development is sensitive to the character and natural resources of the city and minimizes photo pollution to the maximum extent feasible. Policy 8F, to encourage pedestrian movement by providing pedestrian facilities that are direct and convenient, particularly in the beach and downtown areas. And then policy OSC7A, where oak trees and oak woodlands, because they are particularly sensitive to environmental conditions, as well as walnut, sycamore, and other native trees, shall be protected through appropriate development standards. So tonight for the board's discussion items, we'd like feedback on the proposed multi-use trail design, the proposed tree removals, and the proposed landscaping species, the proposed products for the benches, the fencing, lighting, and waste recycling receptacles, and the proposed exterior light fixtures, including night sky compliance. And just to add, regarding the proposed products, the light fixture design and the trash receptacles have been chosen because they're consistent with other ones that we use around town. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Did the applicant want to provide some additional information? Come on up. Only Richard bites. The rest of us are very friendly. Just kidding.
I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to review this project, and I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Josefina. I am the assistant engineer with the Public Works Department and also the project manager for the Franklin Creek Trail project. And with me, I also have Kayla. She is the landscape architect, and to the right, I have John Lawson, and he is the Public Works director.
Did the board have any questions for staff, or did you want to provide any additional information, or we?
Yeah, it'd be great to fill in any blanks perhaps that, us planners missed in the presentation, and you want to add a little flavor and maybe perhaps what the design, there's grants involved with this and limitations, and maybe perhaps give the board a better overview of the project goals and those types of things, since we're all here seeing it for the first time.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so this project has retained 2 grants so far. The first grant is the Community Development Block Grant, and we've retained a total of $507,000.00. We've also retained the Cycle 5 funding. We've also retained the Measure A South Coast Safe Routes to School program and Measure A South Coast Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian program. This is for Cycle 5, and we've retained a total of $203,000.00. And we have also applied for 2 additional grants. They are under the Cycle 6, and they are the Measure A South Coast Safe Routes to School program and the Measure A South Coast Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian program. For the Safe Routes to School program, we are trying to retain $591,800.00. And for the Measure A South Coast Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian program, that one we are trying to retain $689,126.00. And our goal with this project is to be able to provide an accessible routes for pedestrians of all kinds, but especially for students that are attending the LISA school. As of now, the trail is not compliant and can cause hazards as you walk through it, and our goal is to improve it. I believe that this project can be a positive contribution to the community.
Thank you, Josefina. I'd like to dovetail off what she has provided information on grants. On the right-of-way side, the city has secured what the county calls a secondary use agreement. Basically, this particular project is situated in county parcels on, I believe, 3 or 4 county parcels. So this particular secondary use agreement was secured by the city for exclusive use of this trail. And this trail will be, as far as obligations go, roles and responsibilities, it will be controlled by the city. That includes the trail, that includes the amenities, the trees. And if you have not heard before, these particular trees were under the purview of the county, and it's been quite difficult sometimes to get the county to maintain these trees. So now with the secondary use agreement, the city has full control of the maintenance of these trees. So we have secured that particular secondary use agreement, and the county is definitely on board because to them, this particular segment of the trail is more of an access road for the channel, and that's all they look at it as. But with this beautification of the trail and the final establishment of a formal trail, this will not only provide the safe route to school, the pedestrian bicycle trail, but it would be full control. Actually, it is still full control of the city. Also, this is a capital improvement project. It is also the city council's priority as a critical infrastructure. With that, if I turn it over to our landscape architect, if she has any questions or if she has any more input about the project.
Hi, I'm Kayla Shabelsky with RRM Design Group and project manager working on this. Just wanted to add on about the trail surfacing and what you're seeing here in the alignment as a multi-use trail with the funding coming through from the Measure A funding, Safe Routes to School, and the bicycle and pedestrian grant that's coming through. This is considered a Class 1 multi-use trail, so that's what's driving a lot of what you're seeing in the trail widths, in addition to allowing the space for county flood control to utilize this with their heavy machinery. So we have some thicker pavement sections, so that's why we had to use a lot of careful adjustments when we were moving around those sycamore trees. One clarification about that typical section that you had up on that prior screen, that's actually the one with the retaining walls as we're ramping up in grade over at Carpinteria Avenue. This is not the typical section throughout, so you'll see this when we are ramping up at the two ends of the project at 7th Street and at Carpinteria Avenue, and where we have walls to access the existing pedestrian bridge across 9th Street. The rest of the alignment, if you could go back to the section like we have at the Sycamore, it would look very similar. Cindy, are you able to show the one at the, thank you. It's the one with the curbs. They're not as deep. That's actually the typical section that you see throughout. The modification that we made was the adjustment to the shoulder. Yeah, it's the next one, that one there.
Yeah.
So it'd be very similar
And
to this. The curb would be over.
It's right here in the
Correct.
other parts of the trail. Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make that clarification here on this alignment. And so with the Class 1 bicycle facility and allowing the space for the maintenance vehicles, standard trail widths are 4 foot each way. So that's what's driving the 8 feet total with the 2 foot clear shoulders. So that's all usable space. It's supposed to be intended for clear space of handlebars so nobody's running into things. And then on the lighting, the light pole fixture, the head is set at 10 feet and the top of the pole was 12 feet. So that's just one clarification to that. And the lighting team worked very closely with the planning department to make sure that we were complying with the Coastal Commission and the creek's preservation to reduce the photometrics from some of our previous layouts to not have impacts on the trail into the creek, and working with the county flood control as mentioned, since this is their property. We were not able to place the lights on the creek side. That's why you see them along the other side, and working with dark sky compliance and utilizing a light fixture to reduce spill on the back side as well, and make sure we're not disrupting neighbors as well.
Thank you, Kayla. That concludes us applicants. Madam Chair, board members, thank you.
And I'll just add in for what it's worth, coming from the CDD and the planning side. So Cindy has done a lot of work, and thank you. Even, they're our internal customer, right? Still public works staff, but we CDD have our local coastal plan requirements, including the Creeks program, our, coastal commission, communication on a monthly basis with them. And so, I think on CDD side, when Cindy and I first looked at the project, we're like, oh, we'll just shrink down the path and do this and use permeate and all. And then, over over the more detail that we got about the nature of the path and the specifics of the grant funding and the classification of the trail and the safe routes to school, and that it was not just pedestrian, it's for bicycles, it adds a whole nother layer of requirements that wouldn't normally give CDD or your board as much flexibility, perhaps, if it was some less formal arrangement and we didn't have these funding requirements attached. So I will say that, the public works staff came in with this project like probably 6 months ago. Might even be.
It's like February 2024.
Yeah. So it wasn't because we didn't want to move this project along. It was because once you start realizing that there's strings attached to the grant and the functions, rightly, that it became not as easy to to just say, well, make these concessions and then we can push this one through. So just to add a little context there.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to questions. Do you guys have questions for staff or the presenters? Board Member Little, you want to go first?
Sure. You mentioned that this principally is Santa Barbara flood control property. Are they ceding the entire maintenance and everything to the city? And is the flood control district providing any funds for any of the improvements?
Through the chair, Board Member Little, pleasure meeting you for the first time for me. So to answer your question, no, the flood control district is not providing any funds, and the flood control is ceding the maintenance responsibilities over to the city.
Were you asking about just the landscaping or also the creek channel maintenance?
I'm just talking about the actual construction
Yes.
and improvements.
Yes, for clarification, board members and members of the public, this is the County of Flood Control still retains the role and responsibility of maintaining the creek channel and itself. The project through the secondary use agreement is the city's.
I'm going to jump ahead here because my question kind of dovetails that. You mentioned the secondary use agreement. Is that already in place, or does that come into effect with this construction? I mean, do we, like today, have the ability to go in and maintain those trees, or is it part of getting this?
Sure. I understand the question, Madam Chair. So the secondary use agreement has been fully executed by the city and by the city council, actually, and as well as the board of supervisors. So we actually have this instrument in place. Now, in regards to the existing trees, this secondary use agreement doesn't take effect until this project is delivered. So we have the agreement in place. That's a precursor, actually, or prerequisite by the county to obtain from them before we build this project.
Board Member O'Connor?
Yeah, really nice project in general. I do have a couple of questions. First is about drainage. It's not clear from the drawings. It appears in a couple of places it drains towards the creek, and in other places it drains, to what would be the east. Can you talk a little bit about? Sorry, can't hear me. The question is about drainage and how drainage runs along from Carp Ave all the way to 7th and which way it goes.
The intent is to drain to vegetated area before anything is outletted into the creek. So I will review and confirm that is how the design is intended, and we can make those modifications if there's any areas that aren't.
Great. The background of the question maybe was a little leading of a question, but this runs parallel to what's commonly referred to as the Klentner Project. And the Klentner Project has quite a bit of language in its conditions of approval about that area that is right along in the shared border in the 50-foot setback from the creek. And that language speaks to, in perpetuity maintaining, the riparian nature of the surfaces, and otherwise pretty strong language about maintaining it, and bioswales to collect runoff from that project, from the Clintner project. And it seems that that's an opportunity to sort of share in the responsibility not only of maintaining the riparian nature of the whole setback, but also of the drainage. So with all that background, my question is, has there been coordination with that project in the shared responsibility of the 50-foot
We just
setback?
so happened to have the project planner for the Clintner project
Cool.
available to, that was one of the items in our back and forth over these months. Specifically, not less so about the drainage, because the Clintner project has, while parallel and adjacent to the creek corridor, it's containing everything within those the approved basins and swales and so forth. But we did have that specific to the sycamore trees, and we went through so much, right, on our side, on the CDD side, and your board side, and the planning commission side, and all the way up to the council, to make sure that we protected those sycamores, and also maintained compliance with our creeks policies and the setbacks and the drainage, and so forth. So part of this back and forth was to make sure that there would be no conflict between the project, and most specifically the sycamore trees and the impacts to the sycamore trees, because it would be and it is, as mitigation, the Clintner project was required to plant some native trees too, and so that was also part of it in the spacing, because if designed in a vacuum, the Creeks project would have some just randomly spaced trees that, if they didn't understand that there were mitigation trees that were required as part of this restoration on the other side. So we did, to answer your question, there was a lot of coordination between the two projects, not specific to drainage, just because the Clintner project has to deal with their own drainage and get it to the approved drainage courses, city approved drainage courses, but that would not be in conflict.
So one follow-up to all of that, the Clintner project had a trail also in its approval document in the plan.
Right. Yeah, we
that going
perfect,
away?
Cindy, there you go.
Is that going away?
No, and that's, we didn't really call it a trail. That's just kind of a pathway. So the applicant would be happy to, allow the public to use that, and I think that was kind of the intent. But now with this awesome public, lighted, safe, but it's unlikely that that's going to be used much, and it's not a bike path. It's not, ADA compliant and that sort of thing. Yeah, it was just a DG, informal kind of pathway, and it's not wide, right? So no conflicts there, and thank you, Cindy, for bringing this up, and this was part of why we had to go back and forth so much on the layout of the trail, and make sure that we save those sycamores, because we would not be doing our job as a city to have a city project impact trees that we were making a private applicant protect.
I was going to comment as well on the drainage, that the city would not be allowed to drain off onto adjacent property. So our project is handling our drainage on site as well.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions?
No question.
I had two questions. One, just in light of the goal of the path to be collecting from the neighborhood, why was the decision made not to try to get anything from 8th Street? Just curious, because you do connect at 9th. So just wondering, because the cul-de-sac, it looks like it would be possible, but maybe I don't understand. Was there any?
I don't know, John, if you could speak a little bit to this, but I believe it had to do with the right-of-way at the end of 8th Street, that it was
Yes.
private right-of-way.
Madam Chair, board members, so 8th Street is a fully improved roadway or street. So as you can see, it's an existing cul-de-sac. It has its own drainage, curb gutters, sidewalks. 9th Street, as you know, unimproved. So this would have been this project also was an opportunity to also not necessarily directly address the lack of drainage, so to say, the surface water drainage of 9th Street. But this is really just concentrated on Franklin Creek Trail. The trail is not intended to take the surface water runoff from 9th Street. Actually, the Clintner project, 4745 Carpinteria Avenue, To some extent, that particular project has been conditioned to improve the north side of the roadway, to also include curb gutters, sidewalks, and connect to an existing or improved drainage at the terminus of that street, if you recall those improvement plans. So Ninth Street still has some ways to go in terms of improving drainage. Fortunately, you have a development project that's already going to address the north side of the street. This particular project, to answer your question again, Madam Chair, is not intended to take 8th Street drainage into the trail, because 8th Street is already improved, yeah.
My question wasn't necessarily just drainage, it's people.
Oh,
People, access
access.
for kids. I mean, if there's homes,
Sure,
I assume
sure.
that those are, I didn't get over there, which I really wanted to.
There's apartments.
Yes.
Well,
It's-
that's Ninth Street, but
yeah.
8th Street is over.
Yeah.
And I just see if there are people and if they're close enough there, I know several of my children's friends would just go ahead and jump the fence and just go over. So just sort of trying to see ahead into the future and plan for it accordingly. It doesn't make any sense to provide any sort of, but that's more of a comment than a question, so I'll just retain that. But my other question is, when I'm developing things like this and I end up with this much square footage of impermeable surface, I have to do some permeability paving. Is there a reason why all this is asphalt?
Yes, if you want, I could certainly address that, because I was wheeling and dealing with the county flood control district on this one. And this is by direction of me to the consultant here. So as part of the deal with the flood control district, again, this is technically a maintenance road. So though the city has a secondary use agreement, it is conditioned, so to say, by the flood control district to provide for provisions for access to the channel. So what does that mean? That means we have to provide a surface, impermeable surface, asphalt concrete surface, structurally designed to accommodate their trucks to go in, or particular pieces of equipment to clean out the channel. So that's the impetus of why it's pavement, it's impervious.
So there's a higher load anticipated on the paving, so impervious paving wouldn't comply with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Okay. I think we've got all our questions, so we'll open it up to public comment.
Got 2 slips. Anybody else?
Tiffany had anything to add because she's on Zoom.
Madam Chair, board members, we also have on Zoom Parks and Facilities Supervisor Tiffany Smith. She's also an International Society of Arboriculture ISA certified arborist, our resident arborist, should you have any questions about the proposed trees.
I don't have any questions. I like the ISA.
Hi, Tiffany.
Okay, so I think we can go on to public comment. We have Beth Anderson.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm Beth Anderson, I'm a neighbor. I feel the path being left as natural as possible would serve us best. Dirt, gravel. I think that we have enough asphalt in our community, and I won't use my time to detail all the cons about asphalt. The meandering design around the sycamore trees is wonderful, and I think that we need a meandering design the length of the path in order to encourage safety and enjoyment of the path. I think by providing a wide, flat, hard surface, you end up creating a freeway of cyclists. As far as when the kids are using the path, they're obviously not going to need the width that we're talking about. And I think anyone following a path, if it's meandering, is going to engage their attention and care more. In regards to the county's access, they've been accessing and taking care of the channel all this time, so I'm not exactly sure where. I understand that it's something to offer them, that they're being given an improved access. Just wanted to ask if this bike path is being shared by e-bikes. As far as maintenance of asphalt and falling on asphalt that's not maintained, I think that there's more liability there toward whoever designs and puts it in and doesn't maintain it. I know from the history of the asphalt path up to the high school that there are horrendous lacks of maintenance, and I would think huge concerns for safety, but that looking at how that is managed doesn't really give me much trust that asphalt's the way to go. And again, I think that people navigating a dirt trail are going to be more engaged in realizing that it's up to them and the nature of the trail for them to navigate carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, there's Greg Miles. Is that Miles? Miles. All right, I did it.
Thank you. Great project. I'm one of the only two homes that I know of that actually front the project. My address is 7th Street, but the front of our house looks out onto the creek bed. We're the home of the blue herons. We have the large trees where the blue herons live. I love the project. A few concerns. I'm glad to see that you talked to the county flood control, because they do have trucks that have to be in that area to unload the sand that builds up in the creek. Hopefully the asphalt design is sufficient to withstand that. I'm concerned about the maintenance of that between the county and the city. Like right now, the weeds have gone crazy right up next to the fence, and nobody's doing anything about it, probably because the county only is concerned about flood control. Is the city going to take over the maintenance of that to keep it looking good, or is that going to be still with the county right up next to the canal? Would be the question. And then a related concern is that fence that's right next to the canal is in pretty sad condition in quite a few places. Is it going to be the same design, replaced, improved? Hopefully that's in the budget to do that. Up near Carp Ave, the fence is pretty good, but now down near 7th Street, it's pretty old chain link fence. Then that brings up a question on the fence on the other side of the project. Will that stay the 6-foot tall wooden slat fences that are currently there? That's unfortunately a favorite art canvas for the Carpus. And I don't know who is taking care of painting the graffiti, but they're doing a great job. If it's the city, no worries. If it's the county, has there been an agreement on how that's going to be maintained? And that brings up a safety issue. I'm not quite sure if the city's considered how they would manage that in here. There are homeless that will use that area, and unfortunately will use that as a bathroom. Will defecate. And then also we have Carpus along there too. There's always been a concern, a large area that's not immediately visible from Carpinteria Ave and 7th Street to keep that area safe and secure. I'm not sure what plans or what consideration that has been given in this. I'm not sure what you can do with this particular area, but that, in particular, is the city now going to take over painting the graffiti that happens from the carpus on there? And let's see. I think that's pretty much all my concerns and comments. Thank you, guys. A great project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Karen Aragati. Did I do that okay?
Most people just say Karen, that's.
Okay, Karen, you're on.
Yeah. So, my main concern is the asphalt, and yes, the trucks have been driving on it all this time in dirt, so I don't understand why it has to go asphalt. And if you walk along any asphalt area that the city or the county's taking care of, they are not taking care of it. And there's funding right now, but as soon as that funding is used up, again, who in perpetuity are going to be taking care of it? And really, asphalt people who want asphalt need to go out and look at older asphalt that's been there for 10 years or more. It is not being maintained. And the graffiti is something that I'm concerned with. The homeless are going to be there, you know, and the nicer it is, the easier it is. You know, sleeping under a bench, on top of a bench, they do it. And so there's, you know, more ease of use of certain things, and how is that going to be maintained? I'm concerned about the garbage cans, because I know the pros and cons of some cities getting rid of the garbage, because then people think they should throw their home stuff into those garbage cans, and others where, you know, you're supposed to take it out. If you bring it in, you take it out, but we're not really good about that here. So then that's a cost of how often is somebody going to go out and check to see if those garbage cans are full, or flying in the wind into our neighborhoods, because depending upon which way the wind is blowing, and if your house is at the end of that, then you get all that stuff. But funding, you know, I mean, the city and the county are already struggling to keep things maintained, and to be putting hardscapes anywhere is really questionable. And like on the side of the Franklin Creek, I guess because the bridge was so big, people thought they should drive across it, which would, you know, how wide are you saying? People are going to be trying to drive it on that. And what the city or somebody put at the other Franklin Creek over the bridge are two big, huge, ugly cement things. And I think because maybe they can move them when they have to, but they've got to come again. You know, it's like what? Just spend lots of money making one area pretty, and then have ugly stuff just because that's a Band-Aid, like, oh, we forgot, we didn't think about this. So if you can't maintain one place, why spend money making hardscape somewhere else rather than taking care of it? I also, the eucalyptus trees. Why are they keeping 3? Because lots of cities have decided to take eucalyptus trees out because of the fire hazard caused by the sap in eucalyptus trees. So you're taking some out, just in my opinion, take them all out. Of course, I've also talked with other neighbors who wants all of them to be kept, but I've been in an area that was devastated because of eucalyptus trees up in Oakland, so I'm against eucalyptus trees, except for in Australia. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Karen. And last we have Patrick Crows.
Sorry.
I am also sleepy.
Baseball practice. My name's Patrick Crooks. I am on the Tree Advisory Board, COSMAB, and the IPM committee. I just wanted to kind of bring this up. I was probably first introduced to this project, I want to say a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago at the Tree Advisory Board. And so I need to go back through. I haven't had a chance to go back into this project specifically, but just kind of have a few more questions or comments on how it came to be, realizing there's been a ton of work to go into this and whatnot. I guess I missed the first 10 or 15 minutes. I don't know if we did mention if we are in Esha here as well next to the creek, but I'm assuming that came up. So I'll just throw it out there again that, I think most folks realize I wasn't alive, but, it used to be a creek down there, a natural creek bottom, and we're channelized, obviously. So kind of recognizing the importance there, kind of going back to, the sycamores, and glad to hear the Coastal Commission, wanting to see those retained. I'm a certified arborist as well, and so I think recognizing for future generations when we have mature, significant trees in our town, like we should do everything we can to retain those. And I assume that has happened. I haven't, again, gone and seen through the plans to see which ones are, able to be retained based on the meandering and whatnot. So I think I would just look for you guys to really look at that, what can be retained. And then even going a little bit forward, I think we've probably made an attempt there with the quercus, but, again, with the native trees, ISA's put some stuff out. I don't know how many landscape architects have seen that too. I go to a few conferences every year and pretty up on that stuff, but they've put out a list of like 10 trees in Southern California that they're trying to put out there, and they're not all native. And so, as climate change and things change, we're looking to see some trees that might do well. So that's maybe something to look at as well. If we can't get, all island oaks and coast live oaks in there, it doesn't look like any are on the planting list, but to me personally, I'd hate to see, more jacarandas go in there, but that's just kind of my 2 cents. So kind of going back to that. And then again, on the landscape stuff, I'm a native plant, advocate. So I'd really like to see all the, shrubs and grasses, land cover, ground cover stuff going in there, be as native and local as possible, and not see, some of the varietals of salvia and whatnot. But those are pretty minor things. And I guess I'll just kind of throw it back to, I'm assuming you guys will talk about this, or it all has been discussed, but I'm one of those kids that, grew up using that bike path up to the high school, and it was horrible 20 years ago, and I don't think it's been touched since. So there's a big concern there, I think, realizing with the asphalt and what the maintenance schedule looks like. With, I'm assuming all that stuff with the grants, there's no ability to use DG there or any other surface. And if the flood control is requiring asphalt, I think it goes back to what the public's saying. Again, we look at these things, what has been there forever, for the last 60 years, probably since it's gone in, or 50 years since flood control, is sufficient for their purposes, right? And so having that understanding, kind of going back to what we're going to get going forward, and what the city is going to be held to maintain, I think you guys are all looking at that. So just wanted to throw that out there, and appreciate you guys bringing it forward again. So thanks.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the board.
Make sure if there's anybody else.
Yes. Can we have you fill out a speaker slip for us?
I didn't put a slip in.
Okay.
You can do it after.
Okay.
Okay.
Catherine Decker.
Pinky promise is best.
The existing lighting that's there at the end of the walk bridge, will that remain? Okay.
The Ninth Street Bridge?
Yeah.
Yes. So there's going to be some lighting get replaced there, actually.
There will
There's
be some
existing
lighting.
and new. So the new lights will be here and here, and then there's an existing one, and I believe the fixtures right here is proposed to remain, and that is not going to be altered as part of the project.
Did you say something about fabric on the fence?
Yes, the new fence that's going to go along the creek channel is going to have fabric on it. Let me find that detail for you. Right here. So it's going to be the vinyl coated black chain link, and then it'll have the fabric covering specified right there.
And the wood fence, I was also concerned about it because it is graffiti heaven. And Brian Motes takes care of that all the time. He's in charge. How do you get the fill from, nobody's asked this question, how do you get the fill from Carp Avenue to the drop-off there to make it level all the way across? How does that happen?
They take a dump truck and they drive it down the road, right where
now
the...
you're going to elevate that fence, because by the time you put the fill in, and the fence is this tall, and you're going to put the fill into there, what happens?
Well, that's why they're going to have the little retaining walls.
Okay.
And then there'll be fencing.
What's a possible start date?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're here to, it depends on how quickly they can answer all our questions, I think.
Well, and just to kind of map out, so we have this architectural review board meeting today, and then their recommendations. The board may ask for clarifications or some changes that would perhaps need to come back to them, or they may say, okay, we're satisfied, and then the next step would be for planning commission review of the project as well. And so, we're talking several months out to get to planning commission, and then there's the rest of the funding and construction and so forth. So nothing imminent, we can say that. And I don't know, John, if you had estimated construction dates in mind, but it's probably too early to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll leave it up to you if you want to, city staff here to address those questions, but at this time, it's going to your board for deliberation.
I think I personally would like to maybe get a little bit more feedback in terms of I think the major components we were hearing were just the surface material. Is there any flexibility in terms of the surface material and to meet the standards that we're being asked to meet? Understanding, obviously, that they have had access and it's on gravel. I mean, we have an excellent trail on the bluffs that's DG, that's lasted really well, it's bike traffic. I don't know.
Is this the time you like for city staff to answer these questions? Yes. Sure. To your question regarding the question regarding pavement surface or the surface of the trail, I mentioned it about that being a wheeling and dealing with the county for their trucks. And this particular service also serves as American Disabilities Act standardized type of surface. So is DG ADA, one would argue yes, and me as the public works director, I say no, it is not, because it's subject to erosion, it's subject to instability, and we mentioned about this particular project being grant funded, community development block grant, which is the U.S. Housing and Urban Development. They require ADA accessibility. We also have the grants of Measure A, pedestrian bicycle facilities. That does require ADA accessibility type services. So in my opinion, the pavement is ADA accessible type of surface. DG or those type of soil type materials is not.
Is it the only one, though?
It's not the only one. How we could. It's right now. We have weighed different types of materials. We actually initially had Portland cement concrete, the gray stuff. We also entertained perhaps maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, porous concrete, pervious type concrete. And it also provides stormwater quality as well. And asphalt, of all the particular materials that we've juggled with or compared with, your asphalt concrete is it serves the lesser of the costs. And it also provides, and then also with, should there be graffiti on this type of surface, it could be blackened out, unlike Portland cement concrete and the gray type of material. If we use that one, we're just thinking, you could always gray it out as well. And based on a benefit cost type analysis, asphalt's basically the affordable, I guess you could say, material, feasible. But we could go back to the particular services that you think would be going. I do not recommend DG.
Yeah, I think as a maybe part of our approval process, we might condition some, maybe looking into some alternate materials. I know in particular granitecrete as a spec is becoming pretty commonly used is ADA compliant. I know there is obviously as far as the city's concerned, the public, there's an economy of scale for the city to keep maintaining things. If they're having to maintain a ton of asphalt, it's easiest to just be taking care of asphalt. They know it, they can do it. It's, just like anything else, and having a specialized finish on just one area of the city is going to be probably challenging. But I do think we've heard enough public comment to look into that. So maybe when we condition the approval, we can include that. The other question I had just about the access, is there any anticipation of being able to provide bollards on either side rather than doing it sounds like the K-rails have gone up somewhere to block cars? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm thinking that might be up by Meadow View Lane, if that's where I'm thinking, at that stretch of the creek up there, and that's what I recall. I have kids at the high school I pick up. I go on Meadowview, and I go at the end of the street, and I pick them up right there. So I think that's what Patrick was referring to.
Well, and the carp side is going to have a much more visible, wider access too. I mean, it's a pretty narrow little spot right now, but it's going to be a pretty wide opening. So I think you got to have something like that on the Carp Ave side.
System that's removable that you could keep.
Yes, ma'am. We have that on Carpinteria Creek bike path. If you're definitely familiar with that, that is also a paved surface, the bike path, and you're correct. It does have a bollard at the end of Carpinteria Avenue access.
It might be, I think, something to consider as part of the scope of this project.
Yes, ma'am.
To
Okay.
provide for the future installation of that, just, hearing that it's been an issue.
It definitely sounds like we're moving into comments.
I guess so.
We're evolving
Sorry.
into comments.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm new at this.
Just wanted I just
Brad-
want to make
Brad,
sure
you gotta keep me in line.
we're on the agenda at the right spot so I can start
I'm sick.
taking
My
notes.
antibiotics are making my head fuzzy. I'm sorry. I apologize to everyone.
Go, man, go.
Okay, well, let's do.
I think we're going to check one more time on Zoom, right?
Yeah,
So we
yes,
have the
please.
last, Catherine got her speaker slip in.
Thanks, Chair Blakemore. No comments over Zoom.
Hopefully nobody's watching this nightmare. Just kidding. Sorry. All right, comments. Richard, Board Member Johnson, would you like to start?
Well, being as ADA seems to be the driving force behind all of this, where our hands are pretty much tied to adhere to those particular requirements. There are alternate solutions within those requirements, but maintenance and all that kind of thing is all part of it. I had to agree, frankly. I had thought, well, there's nothing wrong with the DG path as it is, but it's just high maintenance as far as ADA is concerned and all that. I also thought the same about the trash enclosure. I said everybody should take their own trash with them, but the reality is they don't. And they will leave it in a dumpster if it's available. And there is trash people who go around and pick up the trash. And we actually have homeless that police the trash too for us. But anyway, I kind of object to the fabric screening on the landscape wall, on the chain link wall. I don't know what that's for, and it will encourage painting and all that kind of thing. And I don't know if you have the protection covered for the 30-inch drop-off through the guardrails or the fencing that's 4 inches on center or less to keep little critters from falling off into the dreaded ditch trench. So make sure that's covered. Other than that, the Knox box gates on the ends, I guess, are fire department accessible. Utility accessible, but there could be alternatives to that too, because they are kind of ugly, these things here.
Well, I think those are going away.
Okay, well, they still have to have some way to block it. Otherwise, people are going to drive down their cars down there. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Little?
I would echo a similar concern by a lot of the previous people talking about the surface and it being more of a racetrack for a lot of the e-bikes and things like that. So if there was a way of softening up and trying an alternative to having the asphalt. I think that's certainly something we need to be concerned about. The other concern I have is on the overall maintenance, that the city would be required to maintain the plants and the trees and all that and the graffiti. I've been disappointed by seeing a lot of areas in the city that are just really run down and have not been maintained. All the effort is going into beautiful plantings, but then 6 months, a year later, all those plants are dead or overgrown and weed infested because the city has not followed up with the actual maintenance of those trees and other plants. So with this particular area and the plantings, I certainly would hope that the city would have the funding and have the personnel to actually take care of all the maintenance of that. Also the concern about the graffiti and the homelessness as well. It seems like, certain as you put lighting in there, it seems like it will be more of an attraction for a lot of the homelessness and all. But, which we really can't avoid. The trash cans, again, I think it's more of a maintenance issue. It's great to have them there, but if the city doesn't routinely come by and clean them out, it just overflows. And I've seen a lot of that at trailheads, where the trash is just overflowing and the city hasn't gotten around to emptying out the trash. So that's my comments.
Thank you. Vice Chair O'Connor?
Thank you. Again, really nice project. I think it's going to be a great improvement. Echo the comments about the surface, if you can explore any alternatives there. Definitely agree on the fence fabric. Not quite sure what that's about, even if you could reconsider chain link, but that's probably more of the flood control's responsibility than ours. One small comment, the benches, while the trash cans seem to be common throughout the city, the benches look different. And it might be good to sort of, have a nod towards the bench style that's on Linden, as that's what people are familiar with. Last comment I would make is I'm uncomfortable with the sort of lack of definition between the Klentner project and this project. The drainage is one that potentially can be dealt with. It seems like it's going to be awfully tight to retain the water from the trail on that 25-foot easement. And I think it's also going to be difficult to have a riparian restoration on a shared border and maintenance of it without an agreement. So it feels to me like there should be an agreement between the Klentner project property and this project as to just how it's going to work. Because there's going to be an invisible property line there and two different parties maintaining it. And it just feels like it's not going to be a good neighborly thing without something in place to define how it starts, how it's maintained, and so on. So drainage and the relationship on that shared line is my concern.
Okay. And Board Member Johnson has pointed out to me that you do call for some removable bollards on the plan, but I didn't see anything on the
You may
here.
not have either.
But anyway, just putting that out there. As I mentioned before, I do think we should at least look into some other materials. Again, granitecrete seems like something that would work for our purposes.
Is that like a? Sorry, Chair. Is that like a trademark name?
Yeah,
Is that
it's
the common name?
It's a manufacturer's product name, and their big pitch was that they were supposed to be a permeable surface that works just like concrete. However,
Thank
the
you.
city of Santa Barbara doesn't consider it permeable, but some other people do.
Down that hole, if it's compacted, is
So-
it permeable anymore road? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so
Granitecrete. Okay,
it is what
got
it is. So I agree with the comments of the other board members, reiterating the no need for the screening on the chain link. I think the black chain link fence is appropriate, though. I think that this is the perfect spot for that. Would the maintenance of this path be something that could be part of the project? A maintenance agreement for what would happen to this? Could that be a condition of?
Is that a question for staff?
Yes.
I can answer it from CDD perspective. So much like any project that's conditioned, has conditions of approval, this will be a development plan and a coastal development permit within the appeals jurisdiction. So we will have the standard, Cindy probably was jumping to answer. So we'll have this, our standard conditions and maintenance would be one of them. And we can even, have some specific project-specific conditions, some of the concerns that the public raised, any concerns that the board has. We could craft custom conditions for the planning commission's consideration, or maybe, in their reading of the minutes of these meetings, or, hearing or viewing the public comments, they may have their own special conditions that they could apply to the project. So I think that wouldn't be missed by Cindy when we get to planning commission.
And that is not really our
It's not that it's not
necessarily our purview.
It's not that it's not. It's
necessarily.
a good something that you could in your motion say, hey, we want to make sure that the planning commission considers the maintenance, of it, and that's appropriate. Yeah.
That's very appropriate.
Yeah. Madam Chair, board members, the city is going through the next fiscal year's budget, and one of my obligations to the community is ensuring that our public infrastructure is maintained. This is no different. And I already have the foresight to provide funding for this particular trail because it will be part of the trail system. And you could certainly condition the project, and that's common as well. I do know that there's going to be budget for this, not just for this project, all the other trails, that to the extent that the city council would be able to appropriate those type of funds. We are limited to funds, but yes.
And then my other comments would be to, on something I actually know something about, on the plant materials. I do. Tell me about the plants. I think we could lean a little bit more into some native trees, if that's possible. I don't know why. I appreciate you sticking kind of with the street trees, but things like the melaleuca tend to get a little weak over time and can fall over on people, and that's not good. And the jacarandas are pretty messy, so if we're going to have mess, it might as well be a coast live oak. Give some shade. The accent trees, the toyon's great. The salvia doesn't offend me. The ribes is good, and the rhamnus is good. The lamus, I don't know. Everywhere we planted lamus around town, it just looks ratty and gross. I don't know whether it's possible to just do, not the canyon prints, maybe the straight up condensatus might have a better performance. I'm sure you can maybe find some alternates to the chondropetalum and the cistus. And that Carex tomicola, as much as I want to fall in love with Berkeley sedge, it just hasn't been performing well in some of our heavier soils. I've been having really good luck with Baccharis. The pigeon point does really well, and it's nice and green. It doesn't want for anything, and it doesn't care about bad soil, which you're going to probably have some challenging soil in this spot, I imagine. So that would, if we can lean a little more into some native trees. I don't know, the ironwoods are nice. They can get a little dicey sometimes, but if they're taken care of in the front end, they'd usually do pretty well structurally. And some coast live oaks mixed in. I think we'd have a kind of a better riparian native list, but you're on your way for sure. So I think it's a really great project. Thank you guys for listening to all our nitpicky comments about all the stuff, but I think you guys have come a long way in a really challenging spot, and I think it's going to be a great asset to the community too, to connect for the school and for all the kids to go through, and hopefully the e-bike phase will wear itself out soon enough, but until then, maybe some speed bumps. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So we need to make a motion. Does anybody on the board want to make a motion so I can stop talking?
I'll make a motion to approve the project with some comments. We probably need to collect comments. So I'll take a whack and get the ball rolling. So one is consider alternate surface materials. Simply stated. A drainage plan,
Remove screen on fencing?
yeah, removal of the fabric.
Sorry, excuse me, Board Member O'Connor. So,
Yeah.
consider alternate surface materials, confirm drainage
Yeah,
plan details are appropriate, something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
rather than just drainage plan, just a
Right,
real specific.
right. I mean, we could get awfully detailed, and I'm probably going out of bounds.
Well, we got the three
you
here
know.
that are gonna hear it and go do it. So as long as they understand it, we're good.
Maybe what I would say is a drainage plan that recognizes the creek on one side and the neighboring property on the other. Right, and coordinating the,
Drainage plan coordinated with
Right.
adjacent properties.
right.
And making some minor adjustments to the planting plan palette.
I'd go a step further that you get a last look.
I believe this is here for preliminary.
Okay.
So they'll
Well,
have
you
to
will
come
get a-
back anyway.
you'll get
So
another look. Okay. Sorry.
I hope when we get that next look that there might be some revisions to the plant palette.
Sorry, Chair, can you go back to your specific portion of the motion? I was still writing down the drainage thing.
To adjust the plant palette to lean a little bit more towards natives,
Thank you.
particularly on the trees.
And remove the fabric from the fence, if you didn't get
Can I
that one
just
yet.
clarify that for the record? That's just a terminology for chain link fence. The actual like X pattern you see is called fabric. So it's not actually fabric on it. It is
It's
just a
not
black.
not the black fabric that they
No,
put on it to
it
make
the
it.
actual like chain link fence metal material is.
It is.
Yeah.
That's what everybody thought, except for you. So thank you
sorry.
for clarifying.
Thanks for
And it
fixing
is,
us.
it's all new posts to raise the height. I think somebody asked the question earlier, so the height is getting raised on that, and we're making sure there's no more than a 30
No,
inch drop.
that's really key because you do see, chain link with the black fabric a lot.
Scrim.
No,
Or green, right. And
It's
it
just
gets
the technical
dilapidated.
terms that you're seeing in here related to construction documents, unfortunately.
Okay.
Thank you
I
for
could have saved a lot of fabric, like comments in my written things, but thank you for clarifying.
thank you for educating us. It's good. Okay.
So we have a motion by
Motion
board
by
member.
Board Member Vice Chair O'Connor, and who wants the second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you guys so much.
Ask for opposed.
Oh, any opposed? No.
Thank you.
I
Thank you,
think
guys.
you're just
Nice job.
messing with me now.
Well, you made your medicine comment, like the NyQuil comment or whatever. We're not done yet, but I will get you out of here very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice work.
So the only other thing we have are minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes?
Motion to
I'm-
approve the minutes.
Okay, so I heard
Second.
Vice Chair O'Connor and who?
I abstain.
Okay, so we got RJ and PO, and we got 3-0 with Chair Blakemore abstaining. Okay, I have nothing referred by Planning Commission, Council, or Director, and you already did the matters by staff, so that completes the agenda. I do want to just make sure, so we do have, we are full speed on May 1, and we have 3 projects, 2 of which you've seen before, or an iteration of. Those are the ones on Dorrance. And then we've got a third on the vacant lot on Linden, the 300 block. And so we've advised Board Member Wolf, since she'd be conflicted out, being that she's right there, she doesn't even need to show up because those are all 3 items she'd be conflicted out on. So we are planning on having the meeting of May 1, and we all are on track for May 15th as well. So anybody know that May 15th? And if you had to choose, we'd like you here for May 1, since we're going to be 1 board member shy. Everybody good? All right. Okay, that's all I have for you. Thank you. And we'll take your motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. 7:01.